YouTube, welcome to the shop. I've got a set of Engineer JST Tyco DuPont crimpers, a set of IWiss, and this is 2820M. These are the plier types, and these are also the plier types. And I also have a set of IWS SN-2549 ratcheting type. It's hard to, like, when you I got these on Amazon, but when you're looking for these type of things, sometimes it's just really hard to figure out, what the quality is of any of these. B, is there a justification for the price differences, and the fit and finish. Most people will look at the Engineer and consider it probably overpriced, because these pliers, crimpers rather, are almost 50 bucks. These ones are less than 20 bucks. And these are, if I remember right, I want to say they're just a hair over 20 bucks. I first got the ratcheting type, and that's because I've used ratcheting crimpers for a long time now, and I've always liked them. I got these for that reason, basically. I will say this though, ratcheting, as far as the DuPont females or any of the females, they're so much smaller that they're really hard to hold on to, and I find that I damage more of the females than it's worth. It's kind of one reason why I got the plier type. I really wasn't sure as far as quality, if the IWiss was the plier type was going to be, a decent quality for the price, because they're fairly inexpensive. But I can tell you, the fit and finish is actually fairly good for the money. It's not loose, it doesn't wobble. The spring is pretty strong. In fact, it's much stronger than the Engineer. It's not as smooth as the Engineer, and you can see a lot of milling marks and stuff. You're not going to see any on the Engineer. I mean, the Engineers are perfect. You are paying for the fit and finish and the quality control of the Engineer if you're going that direction, and you're also paying, if you're not thinking about it, one of the reasons why they're so much more expensive is you're paying Japanese wages, and with the IWiss you're paying Chinese wages. I personally don't care which way. If you're like me and you're kind of a stickler for value, after having all these and playing with them for a while, I have to say that the IWiss is definitely the way to go if you're looking for good value. I mean, this pair of IWiss is $30 cheaper than the Engineer, and they work quite well. I've had no problem. Like I said, the dies, they're not quite as good. I mean, you can see that they're not as good, but as far as function, I can't tell any difference. I go from the two and I don't really notice any difference. And one of the cool things about the IWiss is they have you can crimp more with it, because it has 0.7, 1, 1.3, 1.6, 1.9, and 2.2 millimeters, whereas the Engineer here is 1.6, 1.9, 2.2, 2.5. So if you want smaller, you got to go to another one. They actually sell 3, and one of the things I don't like about the Engineer is, like one of them will be 1.6, 1.9, 2.2, and 2.3. The only difference between that and this one is this is 2.5 instead of 2.3. Then they have another one that goes down to, I think, 0.6 and then 1. But they're all $40 plus, which I think is a little high. There's, like I said, there is one more set of IWiss, and it goes a little larger, or actually two more. Actually, there's and they all go larger than this one, and they're very reasonable. As far as the ratcheting, they do actually make another one. I don't remember the model number of it, that does smaller. DuPont, Tyco, JST, Molox, all these do pretty much the same thing. Open, let's see here, open barrel type stuff, or not barrel, but this is a JST. I don't know if you can see that in there or not. Yeah, it's not going to come in very well. But just to give you an idea what those go to, they go to kind of like your battery terminal type stuff. In fact, these things right here, these little terminations, and of course the DuPonts, things like that, male, female. So they do quite a few different, you know, like I said, Tyco, JST, DuPont, Molox. There's a bunch of them. I've actually got another pair that I'm not even going to put out here. I can't stand them. They're awful. The dies are awful. There's no spring in the handle, so it's really, you know, it's not easy. You got to open and close it. Plus the joint is real stiff. I don't care for it. But all of these are really, really nice. I highly recommend them. And, you know, like I said, you know, there is somewhat of a, you know, if, you know, the engineers are, you know, at least for me, are a little, you know, off-putting just in the price. But the fit and finish and the quality control is definitely there. The handle, I love the handles of these. They just feel real good. I don't know if it's rubber or not, but it feels rubbery in a way. Everything about them is nicer, except for the spring. The spring just is weaker. That's not to say it's bad. It's just weaker. But you gotta, I don't know. You just have to feel the joint of this. It's so buttery smooth. It's just ridiculous. Whereas the IWiss, you know, you can feel there's some. It's not that it's like not good, it's just almost feels like the engineer has a bearing. It's just so smooth. But, you know, in practice, you know, when I'm using them, I can't tell a difference. So, you know, I you know, if, like I said, if you're looking for a JST, Crimpers, or Tyco, or DuPont, or anything like that, I highly recommend these. These are just an incredible value and a good deal, and they work. And I'll have links to all these below. And like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the engineer. I mean, they are nice, and just like these are, you know, these are my least favorite of the three, just because they take, you know, a lot more practice to get it right. As far as the females, in fact, I don't even use these for females anymore, just because of the fact that I have so many problems getting them right. And the small, you know, like the battery terminals, I won't use this for them either. For all intents and purposes, you know, I just don't think that's a good value, just because it's just when you start getting smaller and smaller, you know, if you get 2.5, you know, millimeters and below, these are not so fun. Well, I said I wasn't going to show them, but Blue Point PWC-47, these things are awful. There's, like I said, there's no spring. You know, if they had a spring, it'd be a lot better, but they're just, I don't like them. But they're meant for these larger Molox type connection. But like I said, all of these make a larger one. So much better than this. I don't even know if Blue Point's still around, but yeah, these seem to be somewhat popular in the automotive field. Yeah, I don't recommend them though. I've noticed that on these little DuPont pens, if this little V, it helps if you make it a little bit, close it in just a little bit before you start. Just use the ends of the crimpers. Also on these, you really want to, there's two crimps to this. You really want to do the wire crimp first and make sure it's that it's the tight in there. Line it up and squeeze it in there. There you go. Makes a really good crimp. That was the IWiss. The engineers here. So yeah, they work. They work. They definitely work. As far as the ratcheting type, you kind of want to get it set up in the jaws as such. Actually, that's the wrong size. And just kind of get it in there. And then put your wire in. I don't find this to be all that easy. Sometimes it's just not that easy. Which one was that? Was that this one? I think that was this one. Yeah. So once you get it in there, the ratcheting ones are pretty easy. I will say this, as far as the females, I have a really hard time with the ratcheting one on the females. If you're going to use the ratcheting one, I highly recommend shoving something in the female end so you have something to grab onto. That's the hardest part of it. It's just since there's so little to grab onto, that I'd say at least 50% of the time I always put it in just a fraction of a hair too much, and it just nips that the stop basically that holds the furl on for the female. It takes a lot of practice. As far as the females though, I find the plier type just so much easier. The males, it's going to take about the same amount of time because you have to do 2 crimps with these and 1 crimp with this, but the alignment on this is a little bit harder at first. So and just sometimes it's a little hard to get these on, and that's because there's a little bit of insulation right there that kind of pinches up. So sometimes with your side cutters, just give it a little, just take that little bit off. go. All working great. Wanted to show you what I meant by putting something into the female. This is just a male DuPont. I just put it in the open end of the female, and that gives you something to grab onto, and then you can it's a little easier to get it in there, line it up. Slide your wire right in. Which is not always the easiest to see, especially when you get to this small. And give it a crimp and hope for the best. And see, that worked out quite well. So if you stick something in there, you get basically a handle. But if you're trying to do it like this and trying to get it into those those jaws like that, that's what I was trying to do for the longest time. And see if it'll. But right here is the little securing tab, and I kept nicking the very back of it, not the entire thing, but just nicking it enough to where when I slid the little furrow over it, it wouldn't lock in. These are 2mm pitch JST battery terminals, and I can tell you these things are tiny suckers. I mean, just to give you an idea, that's a DuPont 2.54. Actually, this might be a better representation of it, but you can see it's I mean, it's as far as, like, you know, width and depth, I guess, is about the same, but it's the length of it is so much smaller. Which makes it really fun to get it right. Sometimes it's just it's just hard to see it. And that's a perfect little crimp. You always want to try to do the first crimp, the small crimp inside first, to set the crimp and to make sure it doesn't pull out. Squeeze those little tabs in just a hair and then set it just like that. Beautiful. try to get a close up in there, see if you can see that that's actually the jaws. I mean, are actually 4 pieces of metal and 2 different heights to get both crimps. Think about it, you're gonna probably end up having 3 engineers that 2 IWiss will do, probably that and then some as far as crimping stations. You know, I think I think it's $45 or less for the both sizes of the IWiss. 45, mind that. This one pair is $49, just this one pair. So if you have to get the other 2, and they're also about 40 bucks each. I think one of them's just a little bit less than 40 bucks. You can see the price difference in there. I don't know if it's worth getting these. I guess it's more about personal preference if you like them, but I have a feeling you'll end up buying these anyways. So it's up to you guys. But so I mean, I can definitely recommend the Engineers. They're a very sweet, you know, crimpers. But as far as value, I'd have to say I would buy these IWiss. All right, guys and gals, thanks a lot for watching.